2013, it came to light that CalPERS former CEO Federico Busrosto, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, committed fraud. He was giving bags of cash and gifts to former CalPERS board member Alfred Villalobos in exchange for steering placement fees. Both have pled guilty to charges and were ultimately convicted. Villalobos committed suicide. Federico is serving 2 jail terms, but he served as the chief executive of CalPERS from 2002 to 2008, right during this period when CalPERS was going around encouraging agencies to sign up to these dramatic benefit enhancements, which, as we have already discussed, have proven disastrous. Do you believe that CalPERS was acting in the best interests of public agencies during this period of time?
No, I think CalPERS was acting in the interests of the public employee unions, and the people who sat on their board reflected the influence of the public employee unions, who were striving to get substantially increased benefits. And they got them retroactively on the representation by CalPERS that it wouldn't cost the taxpayers a single dime. Well, I guess that's technically correct. It didn't cost a single dime. It cost $400 billion, because that's the aggregate unfunded liability in the state now. CalPERS alone went from $3 billion of unfunded liability to $93 billion of unfunded liability over the last 20 years. So there's been tremendous increase in the debt associated with that. But CalPERS convinced everybody to go along on the representation that it wouldn't cost anything, that it would be paid for out of increases in the stock market. Totally unrealistic, totally huge misrepresentations. But what CalPERS did is the worst financial fraud in the history of the state and probably the history of the country. It's much bigger than Bernie Madoff and Enron combined. Yeah. And they did it right out in the open. And unfortunately, it's nearly impossible to get away from that now, given the state of the law in California.
Thank you. We had SB 400 that was really passed on deceptive terms, to say the least, saying it wouldn't cost a dime. It really cost $400 billion. And then you had CalPERS officials who was essentially turned out to be a crook as their CEO, using SB 400 to go around to convince public agencies to follow suit. Is there nothing in California law, no legal recourse to potentially roll back those benefits because they were, really enacted, illegally or really under such, deceptive practices?
There have been some litigation and still remain some arguments about whether or not benefits that were granted illegally in violation of the state law by agencies that didn't follow all of the rules and did it in backdoor deals and secrecy, whether or not those can be rolled back in any way. I'm not optimistic about that. It's very difficult to roll back what has already been granted, especially when it's been earned and accrued. So I'm focused on going forward, trying to focus on what could be done if we could negotiate changes in benefits for future years of service.
Yeah, I'm just shocked that, a bigger fuss wasn't made about this, and maybe it was, given that you've been following the issue a lot longer than I have. I know Governor Schwarzenegger made it a big priority, but, CalPERS has appeared to just have kind of swiped this under the rug and like to forget about it.
CalPERS is the primary guardian of the status quo. CalPERS is the primary beneficiary of the billions of dollars of funding that goes into the system every year. CalPERS controls hundreds of billions of dollars. They're defending the status quo because they benefit from the status quo. They led everybody down this path, and now they're making it impossible to get off the path, even those jurisdictions that realize they can't afford to stay with the same level of benefits. CalPERS has steadfastly fought tooth and nail for anybody who wants to change things, including cities that are in bankruptcy. In Vallejo, Stockton, San Bernardino, CalPERS was the biggest obstacle to doing anything about pensions. So they're defending the status quo because they benefited enormously from the sorry state of affairs that we find ourselves in on a financial matters.
Thanks. CalPERS has been rocked by a series of scandals and also criticized for not being upfront about the costs of their policies. CalPERS officials say they've cleaned up their act and are acting prudently with regard to governance and investment policies. Do you believe that additional action or reform needs to be taken at CalPERS to really make it a responsible state agency, make it accountable to taxpayers?
I think it's difficult for most people to accept anything that CalPERS says on face value. After what they did in 1999 with SB 400, the greatest financial fraud in the history of the state, I don't see any reason to believe them today. What they've done over the last 20 years is drive the unfunded liability for CalPERS from $3 billion to $93 billion. I don't see any evidence that they're any smarter or better or more straightforward than they have been. Those unfunded liabilities continue to go up. It's a 20-year record of failure, and they're happy with the status quo. So I don't see any reason to believe that they've fixed their problems. I don't see any reason to believe that they're going to take a different course because they've been so successful with the course that they've been on.
Thank you. Many critics charge, including Governor Brown, that the CalPERS board is not independent and reform is needed to make them act in the best interests of the state. Many sources I talk to say the board's completely captured by public employee union interests, or the majority of it, who have the voting power anyway. For example, the CalPERS board president, Rob Fechner, has strong ties to organized labor, having served in prominent union positions in the past. Do you believe that the state's public employee unions have too much control over the CalPERS board and ultimately the actions and policies of CalPERS?
I think there's a role for the public employee unions and the public employee members to play in pension plan governance, but I don't think they ought to control the boards. I think a majority of the CalPERS board should be held by independent people who have financial expertise, that aren't beholden to the public employee unions, never worked for a public employee unions, aren't members of public employee unions. They should represent the taxpayers. So a majority of the CalPERS board should represent the taxpayers. That's certainly not the case today.
Forget your Social Security and 401k retirement accounts. Do you know that California state and local government employees are earning six-figure pensions every year for life, higher than the highest salary they actually earned while working? All of that is part of California's looming pension crisis, and you're on the hook to pay for all of it. Billions in liabilities. Coming up, we're going to blow the lid open on this pension crisis facing California taxpayers and what we're doing to fight back to save you from having to pay for it. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state representative. I have long warned that California taxpayers are going to feel the brunt, the blow of billions and billions of dollars in unfunded liabilities for sweetheart gold-plated pension payouts that the politicians are giving to state and local government employees. California faces a government pension crisis, and it was all intentionally set up. It literally is a Ponzi scheme, and unfortunately, you're the one left holding the bag at the end of the day, while these very politically influential actors make off like bandits with your money. Now, I'm not trying to disparage state and local government employees. They are benefiting from a corrupt system, but most of them, basically, say, I'm not the one breaking the law. I'm just simply cashing the checks. Understood. All right. I want you to know that I don't blame the state and local government employees per se, because they're given these benefits. They're given a package of employment and salary benefits. I blame the politicians for giving away the store. And yes, I blame the government union bosses who corruptly buy politicians so that they force taxpayers to be on the hook for these indefensible payouts. Now, I'm going to go into the great details of what government workers are actually earning, and I'm going to give you a handy website where you can look up the pension payouts for the city or county that you live in, as well as the state of California. But I need your help. We are fighting to educate voters as to that the fact that California has a pension crisis and offer common sense reforms. We have a common sense reform package that basically says, let's not give government employees anything better than what the taxpayers of California receive. Let's benchmark their retirement package against what local employers provide their employees. Whatever the average is, no better, no worse, give that to government employees. Hey, it's a fair program and it will save taxpayers billions in costs. But in order for us to implement those reforms and save California from bankruptcy, save a lot of the cities from bankruptcy, we need fuel in the tank. If you could go to the website reformcalifornia.org, check out our pension reform initiative page. We have a full-blown campaign underway to educate voters as well as to advocate for common sense reform. Please not only check out that page, but also chip in a contribution. We get no money from any group other than concerned taxpayers like yourself who know that they're getting ripped off and they want to fix the problem. They want to hold government accountable. So chip in a contribution of any amount at reformcalifornia.org. So let's go through what's going on. First, California's labor costs are the real reason why we have budget deficits, not only at the state level, a $12 billion deficit this year, but at the local levels as well. Most cities and counties are saying, oh, we have a budget deficit. We have to increase taxes. We have to cut services. No, trim the damn fat in the bureaucracy. Reduce the headcount, reduce positions, trim the size of government. And yes, benchmark your salaries and benefits against what the labor market in your area is paying. We shouldn't be paying government workers more in salary and benefits than what it requires to recruit and retain a good workforce. But in the state of California this year, in our budget, the size of the budget is up 20% since Gavin Newsom took office in 2018. 1 out of 5 positions are brand new, not just the employees, but the position itself did not exist on the day one of Newsom's administration, but he's expanded the bloat, the size of bureaucracy. But more importantly, he's increased. While the bureaucracy is increased by 20%, the salaries and benefits given to government workers has increased by 42% since he took office. The average cost per employee for salary and benefit, which includes their pension cost, is now $177,000 per employee. Oh, yeah. Let me repeat that. $177,000 per government employee for salary and benefits per year. It's insanely higher than the private sector benchmark, which is less than $100,000 per employee. Now, right now, the state budget pays out billions of dollars, and your local city and county budgets pay out massive percentages of their payroll for pension benefits. They have to pay those into the pension retirement trusts. The payments typically are 20 to 30% fringe rate on every dollar of salary is spent on just the fringe benefit costs for pension. 20 to 30%. Some of the public safety positions are 50% fringe benefit. And that's not even including the unfunded liabilities, which is accrued debt that the pension system didn't get enough contributions previously or didn't earn enough in the stock market. So now the taxpayers are left holding the bag. This is the scam. This is the Ponzi scheme that they create. They undercharge in this year's budget what the true cost of a gold-plated pension is. And they say, well, we'll deal with it later. Or the market will give us more money. We'll earn more money in the stock market. And even though we've had record stock market returns, some would say unsustainable into the future. California, according to the Reason Foundation, last year in 2023, the year that we have the most recent numbers for, has $285 billion, $285 billion, $250 billion, more than $250 billion of unfunded pension liabilities. Oh, but it gets worse. When you add in local government pension liabilities, when you add in a more realistic rate of return than what we've seen the stock market perform at in the last decade, when you add in unfunded liabilities for free retiree healthcare costs, that $285 billion climbs to $500 billion or over $550 billion. That's an astounding amount of money. And we're talking about, for you as a taxpayer, the average taxpayer is going to be on the hook right now for $25,000, give or take, in unfunded pension liabilities for some bureaucrat. $25,000 is what you owe. I mean, very soon you're getting up there to, everyone's going to have a one-time, penalty payment, but no one's got that money. Okay, no one. Working families in California don't have $25,000 to give so that people can get gold-plated payouts. Now, let me show you the receipts. Let me give you some examples of some of the gold-plated payouts, because you are going to be wickedly pissed when you see these. Go to the website transparentcalifornia.com. They've got a database of salaries and benefits, pensions for every government employee in the state of California. It is very telling. When you click under pensions, here are the payouts last year. $9.6 million. This is for some guy at a transportation agency in Long Beach. $9.2 million. $8.3 million. $4.5 million. Now, how do these get so high? These are not annual numbers. These are from the DROP program. It's a one-time payment because they have 5 years worth of pension payouts that earn interest. Then they get a one-time payment plus their annual pension for the rest of their life. Oh yeah, they get something called DROP, where they get to retire in place and rack up 5 years worth of payments. Then it's dropping down to, again, this transportation agency has a lot. 1.5 million, 1.6 million, 2.5, 2.6, 2.6, 4.1. Here's a deputy police chief, 1.4 million. 1.4 million, deputy police chief. Assistant fire chief, 1.4 million. These are just last year. Now, a lot of these are the drop payments. And some of these people have worked for 30 years, but hey, a lot of us in the private sector work for 45 years, 50 years. We're not getting 1.4 million and then an annual payout of $150,000 there, each year thereafter. Here are some city managers. Last year, 226,000. That's every year for the rest of his life. 217,000. City of Garden Grove, 174,000. Rodney Foster, 151,000. And that's City of Rialto. San Clemente, 146,000. What's next? 147. City of Southgate, 135,000. Almost 136. On and on and on. We're seeing these people getting these six-figure pension payouts for the rest of their life. The average pension payout for a police officer in the city of San Diego, over $110,000 a year for the rest of their life. And they get to retire at age 50. Again, I don't blame the members. Many of these people are hardworking civil servants, but this is not sustainable. Now, why is this allowed? Because the politicians want the campaign cash from the government unions. The government unions want bigger bureaucracies, and they want salary hikes and pension spikes. Governor Brown, to his credit, introduced something called PEPRA. It's the Pension Reform Act. And it has been saving billions of dollars, $5 billion thus far. It will be projected to save $20 billion in the next several years. But right now, government unions won't even accept that modest reform. I mean, remember, $25 billion of savings over, years, when we face $285 billion or more in unfunded liabilities. It's a drop in the bucket. But even the government union bosses are not satisfied with that. So they want to basically eliminate that pension reform that Governor Brown put into effect. They have a bill called AB 569 that we are fighting. We urge everyone to contact their legislator and urge a no vote on 569. What's even worse is that local governments, city councils and counties and school boards, they're trying to reform their pension liabilities by paring back the retirement benefits. I led that charge in the city of San Diego in 2012. The city council refused to reform pension benefits. So I put a ballot measure on the ballot working with citizens to collect signatures. It's a citizens initiative. And in 2012, 2/3 of the voters, 68%, said they wanted pension reform. What did we do? We said that city workers should get no better than what the taxpayer gets, a 401k benchmark to the local labor market. And it saved hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Well, the government unions sued. And they went to a corrupt state agency called the Public Employment Relations Board. CARB, the California Air Resources Board, they're the ones that banned gas-powered automobiles and have been spiking the cost of your gas up $2 a gallon in state taxes, mandates, and fees. They're unelected bureaucrats doing it. Now they want to ban natural gas appliances and impose a $30,000 per household retrofit cost to eliminate all the natural gas appliances and get you to go to electric appliances for everything. Anyway, that unelected bureaucracy with sweeping powers is only the tip of the iceberg of out-of-control government bureaucracies that are imposing stunning levels of costs, crushing costs on California taxpayers and residents. The Public Employee Relations Board is a union-dominated state agency like CARB, and they're invalidating citizen initiatives up and down the state of California. And they're invalidating efforts by local elected officials to negotiate better and more affordable salaries and benefits with government workers. What happens is if the voters decide by electing city council members or passing a ballot measure to reform salaries and benefits, the unions say, you voters are not in charge. You don't get to decide based on the mayor or the city council. You don't get to decide based on a citizen's initiative. No, we're in charge. You're our slaves. I mean, that's the best way to describe what they're saying. You must give us salaries and benefits that we demand. We're in charge because we have the state Public Employee Relations Board, the government bureaucracy backing us up. So even though the voters overwhelmingly approved pension reform in San Diego, take a look at this article. Just a year later, the Public Employees Relations Board, PERB, I call them PERB, invalidated Proposition B. Now, it went to the courts, and we kept fighting and fighting and fighting, but the goose was cooked. PERB lied to the public. They lied to the courts. They filed false and misleading statements with courts, but they don't care because they're doing the dirty work of government unions, and their board is dominated by union members. Here are the board members. Eric Banks, appointed by Newsom. Oh, he worked for the Service Employees International Union. Does that sound like he's going to be on the side of taxpayers? No. Here's the next member. Arthur Krantz, appointed by Newsom. He was a lawyer representing unions and employee groups. So he's a union goon lawyer. Nope, he's not going to represent taxpayers. He spent a career working for and suing for labor unions. How about Lou Paulson? He's from the California Labor Federation, vice president. You're detecting the pattern, right? This guy, Mark Cruz, is the only other member that's currently on there. He's a government employee, previously a political activist, Democrat. The fifth position is vacant. So you have 3 union goons and then a government bureaucrat holding the 4th spot. No taxpayer voice. So we get screwed. There is a state agency weaponized against us. And worse, well, the politicians are trying to pass bills, AB 569, to eliminate pension reform. They're also in Sacramento passing bills to expand the power of PERB, the Public Employee Relations Board, to undo any efforts to save taxpayers' money across the state. Here's a speech I gave recently on the assembly floor, slamming the politicians for rubber stamping and passing another bill in Sacramento to expand the power of this out of control, dishonest, corrupt government agency. I'm going to play that clip for you in just a minute. But I need your help in fighting this looming crisis, this corruption, this giveaway of taxpayer money to government unions at your expense. Go to the website, reformcalifornia.org, and sign up at the bottom so we can keep you up to speed as to what we're doing on these reform efforts. But also, chip in a contribution of whatever you can. I know you don't get $1 million pension payout from a government trust fund. I know that you're not getting six-figure pensions for the rest of your life at taxpayer expense. But if you're sick of these payouts, if you're appalled by them, if you want your government back, chip in $25. Put fuel in the tank at reformcalifornia.org. Help us out. So here's the clip of me on the assembly floor. I hope you understand that I'm going to be raising issues against this pension crisis that we're facing and the empowerment, the out of control PERB board that we're fighting every step of the way with your help. Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to AB 1510, which contains language which allows the Public Employee Relations Board to expand its ability to impose rulings on local government. We have a problem in the state of California with this out of control agency, PERB, which continues to stick taxpayers with the bill at the demand of our labor union bargaining units. PERB has repeatedly violated due process, repeatedly sided with the labor unions over the taxpayers' interest, repeatedly overridden local control. Many of you served in local government. You know what I'm talking about. MMBA, which started out as a very common sense, balanced approach to making sure that we had rules that both sides had to adhere to, both labor and management, so that we could have orderly negotiations and work out our differences. It has been weaponized against local government. It has been, most importantly, weaponized against taxpayers. Now is not the time to be expanding the authority, the power, the reach of PERB. Now is the time to be auditing. Now is the time to be investigating. And now is the time to be reforming. This is an out-of-control agency. Before we hand it more authority, more latitude, we need to rein this one in. I urge your no vote. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.